Hi everyone, this is A Navin, rule number 49, and my topic is about verbal and non-verbal communication and their types. First we see the communication. Communication is simply the act of transferring information from one place to another is known as communication. Transferring information from one place to another is known as the communication. Here we see the types of communication. We have verbal communication and non-verbal communication. First, verbal communication. Communicating with words, written or spoken. Verbal communication consists of speaking, listening, writing and reading. Takes place through face-to-face conversation, group discussion, counseling, interviews, etc. Process of exchanging information between two or more persons through written and oral words. Verbal communication, communicating with words, written or spoken. Verbal communication consists of speaking, listening, writing and reading. Takes place through face-to-face conversation, group of discussions, counseling, interviews, etc. Process of exchanging information between the two or more persons through written and oral words is known as the verbal communication. Types of verbal communication: oral communication and written communication. In oral communication implies communication through mouth. It includes individual conversing with each other, be it direct conversation or telephonic conversation. Speeches, presentations, discussions are all forms of oral communication. The oral communication is in the verbal communication, communicating with all words, written or spoken. Verbal communication consists of speaking, listening, writing and reading. Takes place through face-to-face conversation, group discussion, counseling, interviews, etc. It is a face-to-face conversation is known as the verbal communication process. It exchanges the words between the two or more persons with oral. It consists of oral communication and written communication. In the oral communication implies communication through mouth. It includes individuals conversing with each other, be it direct conversation or telephonic conversation. Speeches, presentations, discussions are all forms of oral communication. Forms of oral communication: face-to-face communication, interviews, telephone conversations, graphene negotiations, meetings, lectures, speeches, presentation, conferences, seminars, workshops. These are all the forms of oral communication. And written communication, a medium for communication that entails the written word. Letters, emails and manuals are forms of written communication. Need of written communication: the old style of communication did not have public relationship, advertising, technology and many aspects of modern day communication. This is written communication. And the oral communication it includes individuals conversing with each other, be it direct conversation or telephonic conversation. Speeches, presentation, discussions are all forms of oral communication. And the forms of oral communications are face-to-face communication, interviews, telephone conversation, graphene negotiations, meetings, lectures, speeches, presentation, conferences, seminars and workshops. The written communication is a medium for communication that entails the written word. Letters, emails and manuals are forms of written communication. Need for written communication. The old style of communication did not have public relationship, advertising technology, and many aspects of modern day communication. These are the written communication. And the forms of written communication are email, electronic mail, that is electronic mail, website, memorandums, letters, reports, both business and academic reports, notices, minutes, circulars, manuals, and handbooks. These are the forms of written communication. And advantages. The advantages of verbal communication are more personal and informal, makes immediate impact. That is, if we talk between the each other with the words, if any solution, it can impact the immediately. Provides opportunity for interaction and feedback. It is very fast and non-expensive, more personal and informal, makes immediate impact. Provides opportunity for interaction and feedback. It is very fast and non-expensive. Help us to foster better relationship with your co-workers and friends. Used to inform, inquire, argue, and discuss topic of all kinds. These are the advantages of the verbal communication. And the disadvantages of the verbal communication are: a word once uttered is can't be taken back. Means the words are spoken live, so it can be taken back. It can be forgotten. It can be forgotten easily. There is no legal evidence of oral communication. These are the disadvantages of the verbal communication, this oral communication or written communication. And we see the non-verbal communication. The communicating without using any spoken or written wordless messages. Takes place gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, and touching. It also includes pitch, speed, tone, and volume of voice, dress, and appearance, etc. This is known as the non-verbal communication. And the types of non-verbal communication are facial expressions, gestures, body language and posture, eye contacts. These are the types of non-verbal communication, that are facial expressions, gestures, body language and posture, eye contacts. These are the types of non-verbal communication. Types of non-verbal communication. Verbal communication is a form of communication in which we use words, or you use words to interchange the information with other people, is known as the verbal communication. But non-verbal communication does not use words for communicating anything, but some other modes are used. This is the difference between the verbal and non-verbal communication. In verbal communication is a form of communication in which you use words to interchange the information with other people, but non-verbal communication doesn't use words for communicating anything, but some other modes are used. These are the two differences between the verbal communication and the non-verbal communication. And we see the advantages of non-verbal communication. Helps to communicate with someone who is hard of hearing or deaf. Helps to communicate in silent zones. Helps to communicate with someone who is hard of hearing or deaf. Helps to communicate in silent zones. Help us to communicate with a distant person. Help us to communicate people who don't understand our language. Culturally determined, captures feelings and emotions. These are the advantages of non-verbal communication. And the disadvantages of non-verbal communication is cannot be used as a public tool of communication because we cannot talk. So that's the main disadvantages of the normal non-verbal communication. Cannot create an impression upon people listeners. Misperception of body language or gestures. These are the disadvantages of non-verbal communication. That's all about my topic. Thank you.